Welcome to tonight's board meeting. Appreciate everyone joining us. If you would, let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Item 4 this evening is the adoption of the agenda. If someone would make a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
You and I are taking.
I guess we have back and forth.
All in favor, you two?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5 is call to the public. I don't have any comment cards, but would anyone else like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda or anything about? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on to our first public hearing, which is our adjacent ways levy, which will be Mr. Livingston. But before that, I do need to have a motion for us to go into our public hearing.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Livingston.
She's waiting to see if other voices are
I know,
coming.
just in case.
Okay, so I discussed this with the board member, Mr. Atona, about 2 weeks ago, I think. And he picked up right away that to raise the 100,000 in the district and have a drop from $4.70 last year to $4.28 per assessed 10,000 valuation, we probably had to have an increase in assessed value. And that's true. It went from 220 million February of 2021 to 233 million February of 22. And that assessed value by the assessor is what our 22-23 tax rates are based on. The tax rate also slightly fell to raise that same amount. And the $100,000 levy for adjacent ways, $4.27.8, is something that is truth and tackle with this adjacent ways we've been doing for several years, I believe. Several years.
Yeah, at least, I think at least 10 to 12, if not longer.
So this year ended June of 22. We've got approximately 420,000 cash in that account. We keep levying 100,000 every year. And at the end of the 22-23 year, we're just entering, it should be $524,860. But we may use some more. We've got several items we may use during the year. So that would just primarily eat into this year's levy and keep the fund balance pretty steady.
And as we've discussed, really we'd like to have a good chunk in there. We're hearing that the town's going to do something on 1 East and Mahan. And when that happens, we'd like to coordinate with the town to improve the areas around the school for sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and things like that.
That was something I was going to ask if for our online audience, if you could explain what adjacent ways is and that it is not a new tax that people sometimes presume it is.
Yeah, I can respond to that.
Thank you.
In a couple instances. So I like the idea of not a new tax because it's been in their tax rate for a number of years. And we have the option, if we have construction projects and additional parking aprons, we have the option to raise that, which we haven't. So there's no increase. It's a steady part of the assessment that the district levies. And I think we've heard it with parking aprons and fencing you can use if there's fencing that again separates public from school, students and teachers. And we've got an issue at Del Rio. We may be able to use, you want to discuss the situation?
Right, so really adjacent ways is improvements to the property adjacent to district property. That's one. The other is bus lanes and emergency fire lanes, things like that on district property. Sidewalks, curbs, and gutters are examples of improvements next to the property that the town would actually own. There is, we did a bus lane project behind Del Rio in the past. There's a emergency fire lane behind the school here that was done with adjacent ways. Many years ago, there was work along Center Street, the sidewalks and improvements along Center Street were done using adjacent ways. So the intersection at 2 North and 1 West was done, the expansion of that intersection was done using adjacent ways funds. And so it's really improvements next to the property, school property, or bus lanes or fire lanes on district property.
Thank
And
you.
just to make it clear to everybody, as John said, it's not a new tax. We are required to renew it every year, which is what we're in the process of doing.
Thank you. Just wanted some clarification for those that did not know or understand. Any other questions or comments on the public hearing? All right, with that, I will accept a motion to close our public hearing.
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. We have another public hearing tonight. This is for our district expenditure budget fiscal year 2022. Before we have any discussion, may I please have a motion to go into our public hearing?
I move that we go into the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Livingston,
Round
please.
two. So if we just, we discussed this in a couple different ways. We did a proposed budget for the new coming year, starting June, well, we did that on June 23rd for the 22-23 year. At that point, what we had is a comparison chart on some of the information you've been given. We ended last year with an operating budget of $15,884,000. We moved upwards of about $1,100,000 to our new year budget, $17,047,000. And that's what we proposed for the current year on June 23rd. By statute, we have to stick with that number when we adopt, and this all has to be done by July 15th, so we're just under the wire, and that's great. So that 1.2 million raise. And then if we look at our capital fund, the year we just left is 1,100,000. And the year we're going into is the 1 million, it was 1,000,001. We ended at 1,000,008. And the new year we're going into for capital is 2,000,006. But they work hand in glove. So if we have three different capital projects, we'll have the funds available for those. And then if we want to delay or defer one of those, we can move those funds back to operating if we need to. And we can mix and match on page 7 of 8 on the budget between those two funds. It used to be really tight differences. You couldn't do that. But then they fully funded our district additional assistance. We were getting 300,000 a year. Now we're getting 1 million a year. So that gives us a little more flexibility. And other than that, the other fund that's got tremendous news or good news is our 010 classroom site fund. And last year they put a budget in for us of 1.8 million, up from 1.1 million. It had never been higher than 1.1 million before for a teacher compensation only. And they actually gave us cash of 1.8 million. And that's that 0.6% of the sales tax in the state. So the economy is reflected then in our classroom site fund. And that's a really strong amount. Again, this year, another 1.8 million. Last year we spent 1.2, so we had that nice 600,000 carry forward. You'll see that going back out to teachers. The one fund that we were a little disappointed in is the instructional improvement, the Indian gaming funds. It had been bringing in about 95,000 a year. This year was 82. So that's again a function of funds that are withheld from Indian gaming casinos. So we can understand if people aren't going out quite as much in the last year for that. But other than that, that's a quick look at our same proposed budget as we're doing for the adoption tonight. Any questions?
John, that raised a question. We've had the Indian gaming funds forever and ever since that the state authorized it. But now that you have this online gaming, has Arizona share of that being sent, any of that to the schools, or that all staying with the state?
My understanding is they have to be in a Native American run casino to get that percentage withheld and then funded, diverted to several different things, including schools. That's my understanding. The online is not part of it. That's, again, my understanding. But I can get you
And that may be why Indian
Yeah.
gaming is down, because everybody's doing it online instead. Who knows?
They don't care about the Twin Arrows casino feeling then?
I guess not.
Any additional comments or questions?
I've got just something, Madam President. John had alluded to this, that our adopted budget needs to match our proposed budget, which it does. But after the 23rd, or it may have been the 23rd, it was right at that time, because I think I talked about it the last board meeting. There was significant changes to the budget, and that's a lot of what we're going to be applying towards the staff increases that we will talk about later. So we'll be coming back to you, we're thinking September, October, is that what the time frame is?
And so maybe the October meeting, and I can have that AFR done then too. Then we
Yeah.
have 2 months of student attendance data behind us.
Right. But, so that, the budget that you're approving, that you have to approve, does not reflect those changes. We'll be doing that in a couple months and, is significantly higher than, what was, being proposed. And I think we did a quick calculation today, about 1.8 million on the M&O side, I think is that what you recall, John?
Yes.
So that's, that's a lot of what's going into what we're talking about later in the meeting. So I just want to make that, kind of get that out there so that when the question comes, how we're going to pay for that, that's how we're going to pay for that.
Okay, thank you. Any additional, Peter? Any? No. Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I forgot whose turn it is. Okay. I move to close the public hearing on the expenditure budget.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. One more public hearing this evening, and that is regarding our family life curriculum. And who's going to be talking? Cindy's going to be talking about it. Thank you, Ms. Daniels.
I think we need to
Open
the
it.
hearing.
Yep,
Now
yep, we
we can-
do. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Daniels.
As you recall, we presented a potential family life curriculum at the last governing board meeting. And when we did that, we had let you know, like the health department came and talked because they would be actually conducting the courses at the middle school and high school. And we let you and the public know that we have the full curriculum available here on display in the district office, and that it is also posted on the website. People just click on the link for each one and they create an account so they can have full, it doesn't cost anything, so they can have full access to it. One of the requirements is that we have to have public hearings no more than 60 days apart. And two, so like we had our first opportunity for public input at our last board meeting. And in June, our August board meeting would actually have been 63 days. So we're having it now. So we're under the 60-day limit. And to my knowledge, we have had 2 people come in and look at the curriculum. And we have a paper there that they can sign when they sort of like check it out, but can't leave the building. So we know, and then we know if they have like a student in the district or if they're just a community member. And so far, I have not heard from anyone at all, whether not in person, not by email, not phone call, anything like that, asking questions or offering any input. So this would be a really good time to see if there's anybody sitting out here.
Absolutely.
Who
Let me
wants
just
to
ask a
know?
quick question first, please. Do we have any way of tracking the number of online views?
I need to check and see if there's a way. I don't know that we can track the clicks to a specific thing on the website necessarily like that.
So we're not necessarily sure if anyone viewed or not?
Right, and if they have, it hasn't generated any questions from, that have been brought forth, so.
Okay. Any board members want to make a
Yeah,
comment
but
before
just-
I open it up?
Just
ahead.
real quick, Cindy, we had a very thorough presentation at the last meeting, which was
Yes.
broadcast on Facebook.
Yes,
Were there any Facebook comments that you saw on it?
I've received no comments of any kind.
Any? Okay, great.
Yes.
I want to be thorough because that was a very thorough presentation and it was broadcast and stayed up for several days.
And the
Was that
ladies,
the first
yeah,
of
they did a really good
June?
job.
Oh, I missed it. Okay, that's why I don't, yeah.
Yes, and just as a reminder, it's an abstinence-based curriculum, follows and meets all of the state guidelines. And it's currently being, it was used this last year in Prescott Unified, so a neighboring district's been using it as well, just for by way of information.
And Penny, you have
Yeah, I
some
did have a
questions.
question. Which House bill or which statute requires?
You know what, I don't know if it's in the agenda item or not.
I don't see it.
But it was, and I don't know it off the top of my head.
I think, yeah,
It
I
was
did
an-
some research. I think it's 2285, but I'm not positive, 100%.
That would have been reflected into one of our policies, so you might want to look in the policy book.
Okay.
And
that's listed, I think it's Family Life Curriculum is the title.
yeah, and the bill should read something like ARS 15 dash something or other, like when it became a statute. The number you just said is more indicative of like a bill number, not a
Yeah.
statute number.
Okay.
So,
And there is a bill, SRS 15711, that talks about the process that's required.
and that's where it's housed.
Yeah.
So is funding attached to that requirement?
No,
Then what, I mean,
but it's not.
how is it that they're
it's-
requiring it then?
It's not costing us anything.
They require lots of things that are
Right.
with unfunded mandates.
Okay.
That's not unusual that we're required to teach something or do something without funding.
Right.
Because my first instinct is, I apologize, was not here for the June meeting. My first instinct is, I don't know why we're not spending more time on core curriculum and loss of learning
So
and
right.
adding this.
So two things, it is part of ARS 15-711, so that's where it can be found under azleg.gov. And then you click on Title 15 and scroll to 711.
Thank you.
So a couple of things, it's part of our normal health curriculum anyway. So, reproductive health, family planning, family life, appropriate to the grade level is already part of our physical education and health curriculum. Because this is always a topic that tends to generate a little bit more public interest than some of the other things that we may teach. There are lots of like statutes, or statutory requirements that fall under that kind of help us go along with what the legislature's decided should be the parameters for how it's taught or what's taught. And so it really does fall under courses that we already offer. It's just that the legislature's taken a particular interest. For example, in health, something else we have to teach per Arizona law is about skin cancer.
Sun safety.
So it's Sunwise curriculum is
Yes,
required by
I
the
know,
state
yeah.
legislature. So, we got lots of those little doodads in there, like having to pass the U.S. naturalization test to graduate from high school, but nobody tracks if kids pass, but we keep track. But we don't have to report it. There are lots of those things.
Okay.
So this has been taught in our schools for,
Many, many years.
this is just a new avenue of teaching, having an outside entity come in and do it for free.
No, we actually used North Star before,
Okay.
and their funding expired. They were grant funded, provided services to us for free. It's kind of nice when somebody like the health department comes in and does it, it's sort of their bailiwick. It also gives a little bit like a layer. Sometimes kids might be uncomfortable talking to their own teacher about it, but having like the expert come in and talk about it makes kids more comfortable. So there are lots of things like that. But yeah, we've used an outside entity for this type of curriculum ever since I've been in the district, and this is year 15 for me. So
Okay, and the curriculum is very similar to what has been done in the past.
yes, it meets all of the requirements of the statute.
Does it go above and beyond any of the
It
requirements?
does not,
Okay.
not in the areas that the statute has defined.
I see.
Like they haven't spelled out every single thing to the letter, but the things that they do spell out, it adheres to that completely.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Any comments from the audience or questions or anything else? Please come forward, Marcia.
My question is, it's great that you're teaching sex to the children, but I would like to see the stages of pregnancy. So they know if a baby is formed, that's a baby, and then the stages of pregnancy to birth. That way, maybe the children can understand it's just not a clump of cells, it's a baby. And I felt they should be responsible for their actions and actually teaching them. I know abstinence is part of that, but kind of saying, really staying abstinence is the best thing to prevent pregnancy, because even birth control can fail. But anyway, I just wanted to, that. And with family life, how about teaching them a little bit about child development? Because that is part of family life. You know, some other things besides just sex, because that's a big thing to be responsible for, especially in the teen years. So,
Thank you. Bree. Do you have any comments towards?
It is an abstinence-based curriculum.
Okay.
And so that's important to note, it is abstinence-based. And things like human development are covered in our biology and science classes as well, so not limited necessarily to our health classes. Health is about your personal health, and fetal development and things like that are typically part of our science courses.
I just was concerned that, you know, if we're just teaching how many years of just sex, you know what I'm saying?
And it's not a how-to program.
I'm glad to hear that too. But you know, when I was just concerned as
No,
a,
we appreciate your concern, and the curriculum is here. You're welcome to spend as much time as you want coming in and reading it.
all right.
Madam President, if we
Yes,
could have the
please.
speakers say their full name when they come up to the podium so that everyone knows who's talking.
I'm Marcia Helborn,
Thank
and I
you.
raised 2 kids in this.
Ms. Daniels, one more question.
Yeah.
Do we still offer a child development course?
Not as a standalone. You know, those used to be part of sort of old home ec sequences, but you know, now home ec is culinary, and the first year I was here, I think we retired the sewing machines and
So is it common for other districts to continue to offer some sort of life skills type class?
well, life skills and child development are two different things.
Okay, life skills revolving around teenage pregnancy.
Not so much anymore.
I think
Wanted to see.
it goes back to a question that we had earlier. We're being piled on with so many things that we have to teach. If we do stuff like that, it eats into the reading, writing, math, and those basics. And so, you know, we try to stick to what we have to do. And when there are times, and we offer electives and things like that, it also has to be electives that kids want to take. And so that's kind of the, and you know, you and I were talking about, it was Mrs. Fitter's class that they had the baby that you had to put the key in, so it showed that you were feeding it and things like that. And that was just part of a kind of a culinary or home ex class that she did that. And she did the sewing, and we had the 6 kitchenettes in her classroom, and that's all kind of changed and
But she
more.
retired 15 years ago.
Yeah. So,
Her last year was just before I came,
Yeah.
so and you know, it's interesting because I think there's, as the demands, Mr. Schultz said, the demands that are put on public schools, especially high schools, you know, the emphasis has been on transition from high school to college or career successfully. So a lot of, well, most of our electives are career path electives, you know, other than maybe some of our fine arts electives that aren't necessarily like a preparation for a direct industry job right away. But because that's been the nature of how things have been defined as important for especially high schools the last couple of decades, that's really where we've gone, because that was the shift in our society. So, and we keep batting around, Heidi could attest to this, about offering a 1 semester life skills elective, because we do think it would be very popular. So it's a matter of, okay, when are we gonna do that, or how can we do that?
And maybe that's something we can discuss at a later date for sure. Any other questions or comments from the board? How about anyone else want to speak? Now's your time.
And I would encourage everybody, the stuff is on display here at the district office. Everybody knows where to find it. It's a click and a sign up your name and email from the website. I made sure it's super obvious on the website where it
That's
is.
at ChinoValleySchools.com.
ChinoValleySchools.com on the district's homepage. You can scroll down a bit and see family life curriculum. And so definitely want people to be able to find it very easily.
Thank you.
and just as a process, this is the second hearing. It's at the next board meeting that it will actually be approved in a vote. by you whether to approve it or not. So
There's plenty of time for everyone to get out there,
Right.
read the curriculum and look online to see what it's
And-
about.
Email with questions, comments that we could forward on to the board, share with you at the August meeting, so you have information prior to a vote.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, with that, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing on the family life curriculum.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving right along to item 7A, Superintendent's Report.
you have my report in front of you. Staffing, high school's looking for a math resource teacher. We had a last minute social studies teacher resign and still looking for a choir teacher in conjunction with Heritage Middle School, although they have a interview tomorrow for the choir teacher, so we're hopeful on that. Del Rio could use a fifth grade teacher, but they've made some accommodations to kind of absorb that position without raising the class sizes beyond what the model says. So we think we're good there, but we would take one if we could find one. And then we've had, in the past 2 weeks, we've had 2 kinder teachers resign. So we are looking for kindergarten teachers, and it's frustrating when you have everyone lined up and you get these resignations. And so the principals are looking hard, have been working really hard to get those positions filled. And we are looking for a mental health counselor also at Territorial. So those are where we're at. Still not bad considering we still have a month left before school starts, but it's starting to get a little worrisome. And I know the principals are working hard on trying to get those filled.
Was there any inclination as to why we had the late resignations?
One was a new, and I don't want to say resignation, it was a new teacher that was coming in, had troubles selling their home in the state they were coming from. Another one was money. Is that it? So, and then she was a young teacher that decided to go chase the dollars. And the social studies teacher, I'm not,
Her husband got a job in Oklahoma.
there we go.
Makes sense.
So
We gotta stay.
And then we have an opening at Del Rio for EDP.
That's right, another late one. That was right.
That was a personal
Yeah.
decision he had to make.
PPAC, I have been appointed to the Arizona State Board of Education's Professional Practice Advisory Committee. And what that does is we hear teachers and other staff that they're thinking about pulling their certificates. This is the hearing process that they are allowed to. And in some cases, it's those that have already had their certificates pulled and they're applying to get it back. And so we hear the case and then we make a recommendation to the state board on what should happen with that person's certificate or be allowed to teach. And I imagine it's going to be expanded a little bit because now we have all staff members are subject to the state board process, not just teachers anymore. So that may be, I know that they have typically 2 teams that go every other month, and they are adding actually a third committee to fill that position, fill those slots. So I'm gone 2 days every other month, so that's kind of the
More work for you.
More work for you, but more recognition for the school
Yeah,
districts.
exactly. And it's something that has to be done. They were really scrambling for a superintendent. And I think it's an important process to make sure to keep, there's people that should not be in the classroom, that should not be teaching, to keep those people out. So fire update, the trust, our insurance company has hired a fire recovery firm. So they're working on those classrooms. We were concerned we'd lose 8 classrooms. The side that was caught on fire and the 4 that was adjacent to that. We've been told we're going to get those 4 back on the south side, so that we only have 4 classrooms, which is actually 3 teachers, that we need to relocate. We've done that we downed a couple computer labs and some things like that. So we have those classrooms available, and so we'll be able to do that. I've heard estimates of, we don't know, but I've heard estimates of maybe not till Christmas that we'd get those north side classrooms back. So I think we're pretty fortunate because it could have been a lot worse than what actually happened. So we have made those accommodations. Still don't know the cause. Maybe several months before we know from either the trust or CAFMA on what their investigation shows. So that's the fire update. Lunches. So for the past several, 2.25 years, we've actually been able to give free lunches to our kiddos. Okay?
So, John, is that the summer lunch program or the school year?
School year program.
Oh, okay.
Well, and I'll go back a little bit because the summer lunch program actually changed July 1. We were on the old rules and we were able to do grab and goes. And that's what we did. A parent can drive up and get 4 days of meals, and leave and come back the next week and get another 4. So they didn't have to come every day. That was until June 30th. Starting July 1st, that had to change to our traditional program that we have at Territorial School, where you have to actually kids have to come in and get their meals, and then they eat in the cafeteria. We can feed parents at the same time, but that's the traditional way we were going to do it. So with this going back to the traditional way, we were also going to have to go back to free, reduced, and paid meals. Okay. So we did some research. Mr. Livingston, along with Mrs. Sheriff, who's our new food service coordinator, did some research, and there's what's called a Provision 2 program. And Provision 2 allows us to give free meals to all kids. We still have to do the free and reduced applications. Then we take that percentage, and that's how we get paid, is that the percentage of free and reduced kids allows us to get paid at a certain amount. We are concerned that plan may put us in the red on the food service program. We can opt out of the program anytime throughout the year, so we'll be monitoring it closely. Also, one of the conversations that John and I had with our food service director, who's a Sodexo employee, was what is Sodexo going to do for us? So if we do give meals to every kid, we have a guarantee as part of the contract. How is that guarantee going to play out? My goal is, at a minimum, revenue neutral. If whatever we do pays for itself and we don't make a dime off it, I am perfectly happy with that because we're feeding every single kid.
So, John, see if I understand this correctly. So we would have a special provision in our Sodexo contract to charge us for the same amount that we are being paid for the program?
That's something that we need to, we're asking for Sodexo to come back and tell us what they will do for us. Right now.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Okay.
Right now, there's a guarantee that the district would make $300,000, but that is based on having free and reduced and paid kids. Provision 2 actually gets them more meals. They would make more money, but it could cost the district. And we want to see, it could, we don't know yet until we actually get into it. We want to just see how Sodexo, if they're going to make more money, how they could help offset any loss that we have. Because again, my goal at a minimum is revenue neutral.
Sure.
But I think it's important that we're feeding kids. If we're not making any money and feeding kids, that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but again, going to Provision 2, we have the option to opt out at any time. So that's the important part. So we'll, again, be monitoring it closely to see where we're at after a couple months. We'll make that evaluation and decide to opt out or not. Governing board election. As of this afternoon, we have an election that will take place. We have 3 candidates for 2 positions. That closes, I think it's closed. It was today at 5 o'clock. And so there are no more candidates that are eligible. And so we will have an election, and that's all I got to say about that. I did hear that there is a community group that wants to do a forum for the board candidates. And so as that information comes out, we can share that information amongst the community and board members. Let's see, we do have, there is a schedule of beginning of year events attached to your report. And the 2 that I want to point out to you though, are we have the new teacher breakfast on, I didn't put a date, and that date is the 21st. It's at the high school in the Culinary Arts Building, okay? And then we have our all-staff breakfast and kickoff, which is on August 1st, and that's going to be at Heritage from 7:30 to 11:30. So if you could be there, we'd appreciate it. Other things, you're welcome to, there's some Meet the Teacher nights that you're welcome to go out to. There's some other events that you could always pop into that but these are the two big ones. If you can make these, we'd appreciate it. The last thing that's not on here that I want to let you know is we've been in contact with the ASBA about a training that we had talked about. We're trying to come up with some dates and we'll get that out to you. And again, that's on kind of board procedures and communication was the first one we want to do. They have that in place. It's a 3-hour training. We were thinking initially about before a board meeting, but after 3 hours, I don't think anyone wants to do a board meeting of training. So we probably are going to pick a non-board meeting date, but we'll get those dates to you and then kind of figure out what date it fits best. And again, we'll have 2 candidates that aren't on the board, and we'll invite them to be part of the process as well.
Start it with lunch.
We can do a lunch.
Seriously, I thought that's a good way to start it. Puts us all in the mellow mood.
Absolutely. That's my report. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Can't look this way, there's no one there to ask.
Yeah.
John's over there.
That's right. You want to ask a question?
I understand all the issues.
Any questions from the board? All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 7B1, financial reports. Mr. Livingston.
Okay, Madam President, members of the board, administration, staff, ladies and gentlemen. For the month, and actually the year ended June 30th, 2022. At this time, I have one report, and that's just from the 21-22 ledger, the last month's activities. At the August meeting, I'll have 2 reports. There'll be a few revisions in the month of July that will belong to last year. And there'll be a report for that. And then there'll be the report for July that belongs to this fiscal year. So hopefully we can get away with just one of those months at the August meeting with 2 reports for the month of July. The month ended June 30th. We'll stick to just a monthly activity. If I look at the 3-page report I gave you, I see that there's 3.7% balance available, and that includes 232,000 of encumbrances in our operating fund. And those encumbrances are primarily, there's some salary, we have APS in there for electricity for 40,000 still. A lot of those purchase orders are closed, and we do have some late invoices showing up in our 610 capital account. There's 5,500, so are still encumbered. So we went from over 560,000, I believe it was in our May report, for the capital for still encumbrance, down to 5,500. And 2 of those items were actually, we had some vans we ordered. The vans were over 70,000 for 2 Ford vans. We're not even going to take delivery of those at all. They've been canceled. Anything on order with that Sanderson Ford in Phoenix is not even going to be available. We've had those in place for a year. We had 2 buses on there totaling over 350,000. That's been rolled over to the next year. We ordered those in April just to get our hook in the water, so to speak, and get our line onto those buses. So they'll be here probably at Christmas, those 2 buses. So that leaves us with just 5,500 encumbered in our capital fund. And if we move along, we see that total revenue, that's a new line on your report on the 3rd page of the financial. It's the one called cash flow analysis. I put a little line under the revenue and a little line under the expense side. As of the end of June, 24.5 million received in revenue and 24.7 received or spent in expenses. And just 2 days ago, we got our rollover equalization. The state, we're a district that receives state equalization, and that's about 60% of our operating fund revenue. The other is, of course, local property tax. And we've got another 1.6 million that's hits the 21-22 year after it's received July 10th, and it gets pushed back. So that number is not in here, but it will be at the end of the next report I gave you for the month of June year end. So it all belongs to the 21-22 year ledger. So they just like to have that opportunity to collect summer revenues and distribute them on July 8th, 9th, or 10th, and then they belong to the prior fiscal. So that will turn that upside down from a little like I guess it's almost 150,000 less revenues to a surplus of revenues overall district-wide. And that's primarily coming into the operating fund. There's some big grants, but those big grants, the 3.5 million in ESSER 3, for example, COVID 3, takes us till September of 2024. So there's still some other big funds here, but this is primarily M&O and capital and some grants. Any questions on the June year end? At this point, it's not complete.
Peter, you sure?
No, I'm very happy, very happy to see
Just checking.
that.
Moving
John
on.
did not get a call this morning.
Go ahead and continue with the student activity fund report, please.
Okay, so I went over these. We have a new purchasing person. Her name is Charlene Alsop. And she just formatted it just a little bit differently. So you can see there's about 8 columns there. If you start at the 3rd column in, and that's this one, annual activity financial report, student activity. You go to the 3rd column, you see what cash was available May 1st. And then she adds revenue and subtracts expenses. And this is the way I wanted it, a little easier to see. You can see where we started. You can see what we have for cash at the end of June. And then to the encumbrances to the right there are accounts that just have encumbrances that need student action to approve these expenditures. And then you see the golf club there. We had a late activity at the golf club. You see $5,600 for girls soccer. And then you see HMS Unified Sports that I believe just returned from a big competition. And they have left a little bit of budget there in case there's some extra expenses that hit at the last minute. So overall, they've still got 128,000 cash. That's your final column on the right. And a big portion of that is high school student council, 36,000 just about. And they're our healthiest student activity program at this point. That's pretty similar to where it was when we started.
Thank you. Any questions on student activity? Fantastic, thank you. Item 8A through H is our consent agenda. If someone would make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through H.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. You're making my job easy.
Mhm.
All right, item 9A is our student worker position for CTE. Mr. Pring, are you going to do this one?
Sure. I will
Thank you.
do the best I can. Members of the governing board, Madam President. Coming to you all to let you know that our culinary arts program is thriving, and Mrs. Boris is doing an amazing job over there. Right now, her enrollments in that class and her program are amongst the highest of any of our CTE enrollments on our campus right now. This past school year, there'd been significant expansion in what she was offering to the kids and the activities she was doing. Getting the kids out into the community more, getting more exposure with real kitchens, more so than just our fast food restaurants here in the area. She attended probably 3 student events that were either leadership or competitions. So she was been very, very busy, very successful in what she's doing, and she's running herself ragged. She's very tired, very exhausted. So what I'm asking for is to add a student internship for that position, or for her classroom, her programs. Our agriculture program has a farm intern and a greenhouse intern. So what I've done is I've reduced them just by 5 hours, and I've added 5 hours more. And that additional 5 hours I've added to culinary. So in total, we're only increasing by 5 hours, but hopefully going to be able to add a 3rd intern to our CTE programming. One of the main things that student responsibility is going to be is daily decent class, which is the organization and preparation for the day of cooking, whether it is ingredients, whether it's utensils, whether it's some of the kitchen machinery. And that person will be responsible for helping with sanitation requirements and helping Mrs. Boris also with any of the laundry that she needed to do with hand towels, aprons, or chef hats. So overall, it just would be an amazing opportunity for Mrs. Boris to have an assistant worker help improve her efficiency. And yeah, that's the goal of that one.
This would be a paid intern then?
It's a paid intern, yes.
How many hours a week?
Yes,
How
so
many
10
hours?
hours a week,
10 hours a week?
yes.
Brian, I'm just one quick confusion on the title. The title of the agenda item is student worker position versus intern. Is there a legal difference between the two?
Well, maybe I put it in there wrong, but it should have said intern position.
Okay, great.
It
great.
definitely should say student intern.
I think the term internship means more than just student worker.
Right.
They could be sweeping floors.
Yeah.
So.
And then our application process, and I believe online, and also advertised as an intern.
Right, super.
Is an internship eligible for credit hours?
I do not have that tied into classroom credits.
Okay.
At this time, don't have it tied into that.
They are paid, it's a paid position, so, and paid using CTE funds,
Correct.
so
I was just
they're,
curious
yeah.
whether sometimes,
Yeah. No,
thank you.
good question.
I've seen the operation in there multiple times, and this is definitely a needed position.
It is.
So,
Definitely help out Miss Boris as well. She's grown exponentially. It's been one of the best acquisitions in a long time in the CT department, so.
With that, first of all, any questions or comments before we move on? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve a student intern position for CTE culinary arts.
I will so move with that language.
Thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye, thank you. Item 9B, autism training pay increase. Ms. Burdette, are you gonna do that, or would you like to, Mr. Chair?
Sure. So, with the autism program that we're building, the AIM program, the paraprofessionals, which are, they're going to have a different title than that, but we call them CATs, Certified Autism Technicians. They will be required to take more intensive training so that they can meet the needs of the students with autism. It will work on behaviors, ABA, it will work on de-escalation at a much deeper level, restraints that are safe, just learning how their minds work and how to support them. And it's not just something that anybody can just walk in and do. And so what we've come up with as a training, 3 different training modules that address all of those key areas. And the salary or the parapro hourly or CAT hourly rate would be $14 if they're brand new with no experience. And then as they progress and complete each module, they would then receive a $1 increase for each module to then end up at $17 an hour if they started at the $14 an hour base. If they start higher, then it would still be $1 because it's nonstop, and they're going to have a much higher level of training than a typical paraprofessional position in the district, even in centers or anything like that, because the program will be much more intensive. So I would just like to propose that we have that pay schedule for them upon completion of each of their modules that are required.
Questions on this?
Nicole, do you have an idea about what the total cost impact of this increase would be during the year?
So there's 4 positions. We only have 1 filled now.
We have one applicant, so
And that's another reason for increasing this is because the type of work that we're talking about, these are people that will get spit on and kicked and have to restrain, and it's a very physical position. And so if you figure $3 an hour, that's really $3.60 an hour. And each of these employees work about 1,500 hours. So you're probably talking $15,000 annually if they do all 3.
If we get all 3.
If we get all 3 positions and they do all 3 levels.
Right. Okay. Yeah, so it's not a significant amount total, but it's significant for your ability to find people to
yes.
fill those positions. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we want to be able to find people, and then we also want to be able to retain them, because once we put them through all these hours of training, it's a lot of hours and a lot of work on our part, manpower, and we want to make sure that we're paying them at a rate to where they're willing to stay, and we're not having this turnover, especially for those, and that upsets the whole classroom with those children when they have person, coming and going all the time. It's really hard on them. So that's the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, I just need to know the total impact
Oh, yeah.
and your ability with these dollars to fill those positions, and you think you can.
Hoping so. We're off to a little bit of a slow start, but yeah, we're hoping
Do you have
so.
anyone interested?
I just have one, I have the teacher, and then I have one cat who's interested, who actually wants to be in the position. I have 3 more to try to find. So we're starting the program very small, obviously, because I need to have enough people to safely care for these children. And So yeah, we're hoping to grow it as I can get employees.
And Nicole, how much, so these are kids that we would typically send to a day school called Ascend that's filled. They don't have the capacity to take these kids. And so how much does Ascend charge per kid?
It depends on if they have a one-on-one or a one-on-two or a one-on-three.
Uh-huh.
But the tuition can be up to about $65,000 a school year.
So every
per
kid that we
child.
bring in-house is, saving the
Saving,
district
yeah.
$65,000. But at the same time, we're hoping getting a better education and closer to home. We don't have to transport and things like that. And Cindy, you were gonna say something.
I just did the maximum total impact is 22,500.
Compared to 65,000.
For every kid that we bring in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nicole, one more question. I'm sorry, but the whole aspect of autism to me is scary. The rapid increase of it in our population. Do you make sure you always have more than one person in a room with the kids?
Oh, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I'm totally unfamiliar with the details of how you operate the program, but from the stories I've heard, I'm very happy you said that.
Oh, yes, there always has to be 2 adults present. I would like, if they're not in there already, as one of the rooms, we've had to make some adjustments too because of the fires, but I would like to have camera in there also at all times, just as an extra measure also. But yes, they always need to be there supporting each other. And I really, really, really am hoping to at least get a 3rd person in there before school starts, at least another person.
Super.
Any further conversation? Great. Again, I'll entertain a motion to approve the increased CAT's hourly wage by $1 per hour per completion of each module.
So move.
Second.
Is that helping? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Of course. All right, certified athletic trainer, Mr. Kent Patelli.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. So, today I am going to talk to you a little bit about the athletic trainer position. In the years past, the position of athletic trainer was filled and funded by the Center for Physical Excellence. It was a partnership we had with the center, and it was a great setup. Unfortunately, as the years went on, we would lose athletic trainers to different positions, and it got harder and harder to fill those positions, mainly because of the schedule that these trainers would have to work. The way the center had it, they would report to the center, and then later in the afternoon would come to the school around 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then start the school, pretty much their school day then. And then depending on the work week, depending on their schedule, they would have to go to all the sporting events, our home sporting events. So eventually, Center for Physical Excellence would ask us to kind of fund partial salary for this position. So we went from getting fully funded to where I would have to, where I went and I pretty much charged each program about $500 a program, kind of transfer that money to this. We also asked site council and CTE as well. So we were getting funding and the foundation, exactly. So we were getting different pots of money trying to get this position filled. Last year, we couldn't fill the position. Our athletic trainer took a job with the Northern Arizona Wranglers, and which we were so very happy for him, but at the same time, it left us without a trainer. Unfortunately, it went unfilled. So last year, we relied mostly on paramedics when needed, and unfortunately, coaches. Coaches are not equipped to really, do a lot of this, especially the taping, the pregame stuff. A lot of that stuff went by the wayside.
I even saw medical parents out helping occasionally.
Yes. Well, and also for football, our football coach's wife, thankfully, was able to be present in a lot of their games as well to help with that. She's a medical professional as well. Yes, there were games where parents would come off to the field, off from the stands. So of course, needless to say, it was noticed, the lack of having a trainer was noticed by coaches, parents, players, it was a big impact. So tonight, we're asking to establish a position for a full-time certified athletic trainer. I'm gonna read off my notes here. To fulfill the void in athletic healthcare at Chino High School, the AT will provide injury prevention, immediate emergency care, injury evaluation, rehabilitation, reconditioning, and record-keeping duties for the athletic program. Excuse me. The qualifications for certified athletic trainers within the state include, at minimum, a bachelor's of science degree from an accredited college or university, and successful completion of the National Athletic Trainers Association Board of Certification exam. In addition, the state of Arizona requires ATs and licensed and certified in the state. I think I included a packet for you guys to take a look at all the, this packet I put together with Laura Markey from the Center for Physical Excellence and our former trainer, Travis Delaney. He helped out as well. So we're looking to find a highly qualified trainer to recognize, treat, and rehabilitate athletic injuries and illnesses, as well as organize a comprehensive system of administration for the healthcare system at Chino Valley. Questions? Sure.
I didn't see any budget information on their agenda for this position.
On the last page
On
of
the last
the.
page.
Was it
Very last
Yeah.
page,
Um,
last page, this is statement of the problem.
It's also right at the bottom right there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're looking at,
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now,
so teacher's base salary is 37,000. I think that's what it's gonna be this year. Teachers usually get 301 or actually site fund, class site fund, about 10,000 more. So we're looking at about 47,000 on a 10-month.
is it the intent of this position being on duty during the normal classroom day at the school, at the high school?
Yeah, so we're gonna try to follow the same kind of setup we had last time, where the AT will come on campus around noon, and then our sports medicine classes are in the afternoon, 5th, 6th, and 7th periods. So he or she will work with Ms. Gustafson, who was our sports medicine teacher, work with those students, and then after that, go on to practices and games.
So the schedule would start at noon and go through the afternoon, team practices.
Correct, until at least 5 o'clock, 5:30, until practices are over. And like I said, if there's a game during the week, then he or she would attend that game. Or on the weekends as well. Sometimes there's weekends games.
Sounds good. Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Good.
So would this, would this athletic trainer also be available to like Del Rio or Heritage?
I don't believe so,
there?
no. I think this would just be a high school
I
position.
I saw that, but I
that's-
just wondered if it was an omission. Okay.
And the high school's enough as it is.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot going on at the high school.
Okay, I just had to.
Yes.
Do you have anyone in mind? Has anyone
No.
expressed interest?
I spoke with Laura. Unfortunately, she doesn't have anyone right now, but we're gonna start pushing it a lot further harder now that if we can have the position available. She would also be available to help interview the candidates, make sure that we're getting someone who is certified, checking up all those boxes.
Well, I may be selfish, but as a parent of an athlete that is injury prone,
Yes, it
I'm
is.
very involved with this. With that, can I have a motion to approve?
I will move to approve the position of certified athletic trainer.
CBHS.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mrs. Cox, you're already coming on up. Addition of one preschool paraprofessional.
Yes, good
Territorial.
evening. Tonight I come to you, we received the DES Child Care Stabilization Grant. It's a mouthful. It's in the amount of $25,000 per month. And so we get, as long as we meet everything and do all of the things we're supposed to, it's July 2022 through June of 2023. So with that, they give us guidelines of what we can do with it. And one of them is to hire employees. So we'd like to expand and hire one additional paraprofessional so that Miss Debbie, who is our current preschool certified teacher, can float between all of the classrooms and not be in one classroom, but we'd still meet our ratios in the classrooms with paraprofessionals. And of course, the funding would come from the grant that we received.
Now, that's 25,000 a month?
And so later on in the agenda,
Okay.
you'll see how we're spending that money.
Wow, I might apply for that position.
Later on in no, that is not for that person. Later on, we'll talk about how we're going to spend that money as well, the
Understood.
proposed.
The annual cost of a paraprofessional is about $30,000 with benefits and everything else.
Every year.
A year annually.
Yeah, I was like, I have budgeted for about $2,000 a month, so.
That sounds good.
Yep.
Any questions, comments? Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the addition of 1.85 FTF preschool paraprofessional at Tech.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item 9E is return to work stipend for certified employees. Mr. Schultz.
All right, district staff is proposing $1,000 return to work stipend for all certified employees. So this would be our teachers, our instructional coaches, our deans of students. We have some counselors, mental health counselors. What's that? Therapists. So we have a variety of people. There's about, and I think I put in here, it doesn't say, but it's about 120 or so employees that would be eligible, but some of those positions aren't filled yet. So they're new people coming on board. They would not be eligible. So this is just employees that were with us last year that are coming back this year would get $1,000. Most of it would come out of the classroom site fund for those that are eligible to receive classroom site funds. The remainder, that's 109,000, give or take. Then the remainder 15 would come out of maintenance and operation. That would be for those that aren't, like our therapists and coaches and things like that. So this would be paid the first non-normal payday after they come back. So it's not taxed extra heavily. And just something that we have the funding in our classroom site fund. This is what it's supposed to be going towards, salaries, and that's what the proposal is.
Even though the funds are for our certified, and I absolutely understand that, are we gonna try and do anything for our classified?
Our classified have been benefiting significantly because of the increase in minimum wage. So they have been getting, when you look at the percentages, they've been getting, I don't want to say disproportionate because they deserve it, but higher percentage raises than the rest of our staff has because of that, it's been pushed by the minimum wage. So I'd love to give everybody money, but I think this is appropriate for our teaching staff coming back.
Any other questions?
Is there any stipulation in there so that if they come back and they're only back for, say, a month, do we recuperate any of that 1,000? Is it?
You all approved in March, when we did contracts, you approved increasing what's called liquidated damages. And liquidated damages is a provision in their contract. It used to be, I think, $750 was the old liquidated damages. You all increased it to $2,000 in anticipation of this.
Okay.
So in order for them to get out of their contract, and there's times that you waive the liquidated damages, and that's part of the personnel report, kind of depending on the person's circumstances. But if they just quit and move or don't work, we have the ability to withdraw out of their check $2,000 for that. And so that's part of the reason to recoup that. And we did that in anticipation of doing the return to work stipend.
Anything, Peter?
No.
All right. Any other discussion? With that, would one of you please make a motion to approve this?
Okay, I approve the $1,000 return to work stipend for returning certified employees using classroom site funds and maintenance and operations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item 9F is our hourly rate for certified timesheet work. Mr. Schultz.
So, and I don't even recall this. I had to ask Cindy how long ago we actually increased the hourly rate for non-contract work. And we think it was at least 14 years ago. And so this is for work outside of a teacher's normal contract. So it could be summer school. It could be during Fridays when we do Friday school. It could be during the breaks. It could be trainings in the summer. So right now it's $25 an hour. We're proposing it to move it up to $35 an hour. Again, and in some cases you've approved that $35 already because most of this $35 an hour comes out of a lot of grants and things like that. So it was an estimate at $30,000. Again, most of that's summer school has been coming out of ESSER, things like that. So Friday school's been coming out of ESSER. So that's just an estimate. But again, just to kind of keep up, it also says that the $2 an hour more, this is $2 an hour more than the new teacher's hourly rate, including classroom stipend. So a teacher brand new to the district makes about $33 an hour, including classroom stipend.
Will we be able to continue to sustain all these increases that we are giving out? I mean, I'm all for
Yeah.
increasing
Right.
teacher anything.
So, and that's part of the discussion that we'll have when we talk about the other raises. There's room in and again, most of this has to do with a lot of grants, but when we give the raises that we talk about later, we adjusted it so that that it is sustainable.
The other thing is, this is extra duty. And so if we can always curtail what we're offering.
Okay, correct, right, okay.
So, like we're flush with some, stimulus funds that I referred to as COVID cash earlier. We're flush with that right now, so we're offering tons of stuff for learning loss or whatever, like Friday schools, tutoring, blah, 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 blah. So as we roll forward, if we don't have strong need for that, or we don't have parent or student interest in some of those things, we just don't offer it outside of normal contract hours too.
We have a tutoring grant that we've been hiring people on that would be impacted by this. So there's, it's not requiring us to use the money. It's just they're compensating our employees fairly. It's really what we're trying to do.
Any other comments or questions?
Other districts are paying $40 an hour, just FYI.
Oh my goodness, okay. Is there room to increase this amount by
We're
any
pretty
chance?
confident with the 35.
Okay, all right. All right, I believe I don't know whose turn. Would someone make a motion, please, to accept this?
Okay, I move that we approve a rate of $35 an hour for our certified employees that work on a timesheet.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, for the next several ones, please refer to your handouts that were on the desk when you got here. The first one is item 9G, coaching stipends this is for CVHS and HMS stipends for 22-23.
And we discovered we left one off, so we'll bring that one back.
Yeah.
And
Which
it's
one did
not
we leave
on
off?
this one by any chance.
Oh, yes.
All right,
And that was added last year. So coaching stipends are a percentage of the base pay. Later, we'll discuss the base pay for teachers, but this is just a adjustment based on that base pay amount.
Okay.
Going through for the calculation. It looks like this.
and looking at these, they are
Yeah,
not,
I got the staples. M, J.
It's the littlest
That's
font.
good, right here.
Oh,
Right there.
Okay, there.
and looking at it, it does not appear that it's a significant amount. I mean, overall.
The amount, you mean the amount that like a head coach for football gets, $5,000.
Right.
5,000. Coaches, a lot of times are not doing it for the money. And as the wife of a coach, I assume as you understand that. And so, yeah, it's done because it gives a different relationship with kids in athletics or after-school activities that is, as a coach myself, I loved it. It was just, I did track and field, and it was a great experience. I'd never not do it, and money was not the concern for me when I did. It was nice, but it was not the concern, so.
All right.
So, and this is the proposed schedule for this next year.
Correct.
So that's a good point, Peter. So the one in our book is
This is
greatly effective, but this is the correct one. Okay, just wanted to
The one
make
that's
sure.
labeled is the correct one.
the one that I wrote, IG.
Thank you. All right, any other questions on that? I mean, they're not making $1 million, people.
No.
Yeah.
All right, with that, could I have a motion to approve the coaching stipends for 2020?
I move we approve the CDHS and HMS coaching stipends for 2022, 2023.
We can make a reference to this revised sheet.
You don't need to.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so now second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Again, refer to the sheet on your desk. Item 9H, additional salary increases for administrators and classified directors for fiscal year 22-23.
So initially, I was proposing a 5% increase for administrators, and this goes for all three, the same conversation.
Right.
It was gonna be 5% for administrators, $1 an hour for classified staff, and $3,000 for certified staff. After discussion, and we have a closer look on this current year budget, Mr. Livingston and I decided that it'd be safer to go down to basically 70%. So we're proposing 3.5% for administrators, 70 cents per hour for classified staff, and 2,100 for certified staff. So that's where that came from. And we need that buffer to kind of make up mainly on our carry forward. Has dipped a little compared to last year, so we need to use some current funds to make up for that dip. And this gives us the room to do that. We're confident in the amounts as long as enrollment is stable. And I know that's a big concern of Mr. Livingston. And I don't want to I'm going to put words in Cindy's mouth and she can confirm. I think she and I are confident that our enrollment should be stable for next year using the same amount that we do this year. If not, as we've been every year, if we need to make adjustments at the beginning of the year because we don't have 200 kids showed up, we'll make those adjustments. And we have the authority to do that. So well, that's not a concern. I am confident that these amounts, they're large. We're talking between the raise that you approved in March and this raise, we're talking $1 million. But we just got 1.8 from the state that we didn't have, that is the increase that the budget got this year. Okay. So 3.5% is what we're proposing, down from 5.
I'm going to ask it one more time, sustainability.
This is money that's in the budget.
Okay.
That's, as long as, and really, we're supposed to get 2% next year on top of what we get this year. Next year's raises will be determined by what we get, but the monies will be in there to cover these raises.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarification.
John, if I remember correctly, in the other John's forecast, we were forecasting only an ADM growth of about 40 kids this coming year, which to me sounded very conservative. Is that still in line with what your thinking is?
These numbers were based on no growth.
No, oh, okay, so that's even more conservative then.
Yes.
That answers my question.
Okay. Yeah.
That's great.
And especially lately, if you take COVID out of the picture, we have been fairly flat for quite a few years. And so, that's not it may be conservative, but I think it's probably going to be pretty close to where we're at. And that was the post-COVID stuff. Yeah. And that really was a result of the dip that we had the year before.
Sure. The
So,
drop and then the bounce back.
yeah. So this total cost of the district, including our, what we call ERE, employee-related expenses, is $56,422.
Okay, any additional comments or questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the salary increase. Not my turn.
And just just a clarification, the action requested is the old request, so you just need to make sure it's adjusted for the new request, that's all.
Well, can we just use this figure here?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So I will propose that we adjust the salary for administrators and classified directors by an increase of 3.5% for the current fiscal year.
A second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, again, please refer to your handout,
Looks like this one.
and at the top it does say 9-1, 9I. 9I.
It looks like it's right here.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
is that, yeah, that looks like
That's
it's.
a nine.
Yep.
Got it.
Mr.
Um,
Schultz, please.
The discussion already was there. We initially were proposing $3,000. 70% of that is 2,100. So this 2,100 would be on top of the raise that certified staff already received that you guys gave in March, which was $1,000 and 2%. So this would be an additional $2,100 on top of that. The cost to the district, oh, I wrote it down, is 70% of 467. So you got your calculator out? I think it was 3 something. Yeah.
Off the top of his head.
327, 350.
327. That's a good, nice. I think that's the number that I use. Thank you. From the math teacher, by the way. So that includes the employee-related expenses. And yeah,
Any other questions or comments on this?
So just so we're clear on the record, this is a flat increase in addition to the increase that we previously approved.
that's correct.
Mhm.
And these increases, along with the increases that were approved in March, are about $1 million
Yeah.
together.
I'm still a little bit concerned that I don't think the classifieds are being properly represented, in my opinion.
They are
If
actually.
they're at 70 cents an hour.
Mhm.
I figured that's about 1,456 a year.
They already got a raise as well, that we'll talk about next.
Okay,
Yeah.
It is the next.
okay, I'm
agenda
sorry.
item. No, that's okay. I just realized
I
it
just am
too.
concerned about them.
Right.
That's well you should be. Any other questions, comments? And if you're ready, let's move on to a motion to approve.
I move we approve the additional salary increase of $2,100 for certified staff for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Second.
I'm not saying aye yet. Am I reading this incorrectly?
I just wrote down what he told us.
Yeah, it's across the board 2,100.
Across
Got
the
it.
board.
I'm fine now.
Okay.
It's 70% of the 3,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
All right, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Again, another handout, 9J is additional salary increase for our classified staff.
So, and to address your concern, classified staff already got a $1 raise along with a 1.5% raise.
Okay,
So this 70 cents is in addition to the $1 and 1.5%. And so on top of that, the district's minimum wage is moving from $13 an hour to $14.70. So that, if you're making $13 an hour and you get a $1.70 raise, that's over a 10% raise that they got, which is, and as a discussion earlier, the classified staff, because of the increased minimum wage, has been getting much higher percentage raises than anyone else in the district because of that. You figure 5 years ago, our minimum wage in the district was $9 an hour, and it's going up to $14.70. Yeah, it's over a 50% increase in that time. So,
sign of the times.
so
Yeah,
this would be for our hourly classified staff. Proposing that every employee gets a 70-cent per hour increase.
But there's no reason to have a return to work stipend.
Not for the hour. Most of these people, other than the school-based people, a lot of them are year-round. So when you talk about our facilities and our, facilities and our district office staff, they're year-round anyway. We will be, and I'll bring it up, we will be coming to you, could be as early as next month, for a stipend for all staff, the same amount of stipend from superintendent down to whatever, based on a grant that we anticipate receiving because we were in school for 100 days during the pandemic. So, and so that we'll probably be coming to you, and that is for all staff will get the same amount, right? 300 and, yeah.
Including ERE, it's
Okay.
like 870.
Okay. So it could be $500-600 that all staff would get.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve item 9J.
Okay, I will approve an additional salary increase of 70 cents an hour for all classified staff for fiscal year 2022-23.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Another handout, item 9K, the revised certified staff entry salary schedule.
So that's the one you just did.
Yeah.
There you go. So when I was proposing a $3,000 raise, part of what district staff is really pushing is to getting our base pay up. And so I was proposing adding $3,000 to the base. We didn't add $3,000, so this is just adding $2,100 to the base. So we're going from $34,000, which already has been approved, to $36,100.
That's this year. I just want to remind everybody, our classroom site fund is 10,000 on top of that.
Right. And $11,000 this year because of the return to work stipend for some.
Our base is really 46.
This makes that base salary look a lot better than
Mhm.
36,000.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion? All right, now seeing none, if we could get a motion to approve the classified staff entry salary schedule.
Make a motion, we approve the 2022, 2023 revised certified staff entry salary schedule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Item 9L, almost to the last of the handouts. Our 22-23 revised classified staff entry salary schedule.
So similar, adding 70 cents this time instead of to the base pay minimum wage to go to from $14 to $14.70. We just added 70 cents to each of our classifications. This should get us, it will better get us through this year with the minimum wage increase and maybe get us through next year depending on what inflation is. So this may last us 2 years before we have to increase this again. I've heard that the minimum wage may go up at least $1 this year because of inflation, going from $12.80 to $13.80. On top of that, we are competing against McDonald's where they can make that money and not have retirement taken out. Someone making minimum wage is not worried about retirement at this point. They're worried about surviving. So we don't have the option of not doing that. So we have to try to keep our wages competitive.
All right, any discussion, questions, comments?
I just have a question, an overall question. Where are the bus drivers represented in all of this?
So they are on here under transportation. I think
Okay.
it's the
Second line.
second line.
It's just such a tiny print for me, honestly.
I know.
Yeah, the whole
So I
see
can
it,
tell
yeah.
you, we had a support services meeting today where I get together with all the department directors. And every time I see Chris Walton, who's our transportation director, she says, thank you for even increasing the minimum wage from last time. It's helped out in getting drivers. So this will help out even more. We have 4 drivers in training right now. We have one, we just hired a position that actually it's on the personnel report, a bus driver. I think we have 1 position left open. So it's increasing that wage has helped get drivers, at least according to Mrs. Walton.
Did we end up giving a bonus for the drivers also? Okay, I wasn't sure if there was a sign-on bonus or not. Right, any other questions, comments, concerns?
So again, we're gonna do 70 cents, not the $1.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you for noticing that.
We have a motion to approve the classified staff entry salary schedule.
Okay, I will move that we approve the revised classified entry salary schedule by 70 cents an hour as shown on the schedule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The skeleton crew is not even.
I know. I'll just start pointing to you all.
Yeah.
Item 9N, our personnel report.
There is a supplement. And so there's two items that say 9M on them that's not in your book. So those are the 2 that we want to refer to. The difference is on the personnel report and the supplement, or on the personnel report, we had some of the corrections due to the $3,000 and the $1 an hour raise. And so we had to make that change. That change happened this afternoon. So that's why we have a revised personnel report in your hand, along with the supplement that is not revised because it's a supplement. You haven't seen it yet. So
Oh, you know.
All right.
the some things to notice, we have a lot of coaches, our head coaches and assistant coaches are on here. We have some stipends for department chairs, for band and SAE supervision and things like that. Fortunately, we have a couple resignations that we don't like to see, but we are dealing with them. So
Give everyone a moment to kind of glance over everything.
this is a busy time of year for our personnel reports. It should settle down next month, hopefully.
Just out of curiosity, what does a bus driver start out at now?
It was, so while they're doing their training.
Yeah.
They're making $14.70 an hour.
Okay.
So, and then as a substitute, I'm trying to find that sheet.
15, 20.
IXL.
Yeah. So as a trainee, they're making $14.70. As a substitute, they make 50 cents more, so they're making $15.20. And once they get on we call it contract, although it's a work agreement. Once a work agreement, they're making $16.70 at a minimum. And then once they get on contract, they can get some experience adjustments if they do that.
Plus benefits.
Plus at a minimum of 5 hours a day, which most of ours are 5, there's a few that are 6.25, they get benefits, where other employees have to work 7.5 hours a day to get benefits.
Considered full-time.
It's considered full-time for a bus driver at 5. That's what brings people in.
Do they typically have a split schedule?
Yes,
in the
there's
day?
split shift.
Just-
We have 2, our dispatcher, and we also have a bus driver that's also a mechanic that are, they have 10-hour days, but, and they don't split their shift, but everyone else has a split shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other discussion regarding tonight's personnel report? All 3 pages or all 3 attachments
And supplements?
and supplements and supplements.
I do want to say if people on TV are watching and they are looking for a job, we have some jobs opening starting at $14.70 an hour
Fantastic. That's pretty darn
Yeah.
good. With benefits.
with benefits, health insurance at no cost, and retirement at matching up to 12.17%.
That's awesome. That's really good. You don't hear that anymore. Okay, I will make a motion to approve the personnel report with supplements.
Second,
Thank you. I'm gonna start prodding.
I'm still thinking of these numbers again.
Yeah.
Sorry
All
about
in
that.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you much. We don't have a supplement for this one, correct? We do.
No.
Where did
We've
I-
gone through all of the extra papers.
Okay, then item 9N, additional salary increase for superintendent.
So I don't typically
will-
put my own
I'll be happy to
salary
discuss this.
on.
Absolutely.
I don't recommend my own salary.
So last month, we discussed several different things and what we were going to do. And we chose to keep it in line with other administrators at a 5%. So that is what we're looking for approval for tonight, is a 5% increase for our
Just a
superintendent.
reminder, we actually decreased that for
3.5.
other administrators.
I had my old notes on here. Let me rephrase that. Mr. Scholl will not be getting 5%.
Wouldn't mind it, but.
Look, got a reduction already.
3.5%.
Down as we speak.
Yeah, yes. Any discussions on that? We talked about it for months now.
Madam Chairman, I move that we increase the superintendent's salary by 3.5% for the coming year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No more handouts. Here we go. Item 10A, $1,000 adjacent ways levy, Mr. Livingston. 100,000. Only 1,000?
Okay. So the item then is the renewal of the adjacent ways levy. And that's done in this truth and taxation hearing we went through earlier. And the motion then would be to raise that again, $4.27 for the 10,000 evaluation, and bring in 100,000 to the district. Do that, it gives us several options to improve property adjacent to school district property and to do curbs and gutters, et cetera, walkways and fences on school district property. And I really recommend that you approve that.
Fantastic. Any other discussion on that? Or was everything answered in the public hearing? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve the $100,000 adjacent ways levy.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 10B is our district expenditure budget fiscal year 22-23. We just talked about it, Mr. Livingston.
In summary, what we have is kind of three things in play. We have the last year's budget for operations and maintenance, 15.7 million. The adopted budget tonight of 17 million and 47,000. Moving on above 18 million based on count and when we revised in October. Last year's budget for capital, 1,881,000. This year, capital 2.3 million. Last year, right now, 2.6 million for capital, because you get to carry that unspent balance forward. And then I guess we anticipate when we do this in October, there may be some fluctuation in capital as well as M&O with these new funds flowing through. Amazing for classroom site fund. I remember when it was $272 a student. Now it's $700 a student based on, and the state never could bring in $272 a student way back in 2000. They never could get there. So other districts would just roll that budgeted amount forward and spend what they got on cash. And the rainy day fund caught up, so now it's increased state revenues, increased $700 a student instead of 272. So that the current year was 1,881,000 for the classroom site fund. We spent right around 2 million. Next year, that's budgeted to go up to 2.4 million, and that will probably stay because they have their numbers. The Joint Legislative Budget Committee pegged the strength of the state economy, and they've been so good the last few years. If they say the budget's going to be 1.7 million again, they deliver the cash. So that 2.4 million is a pretty good number. And that's what we're talking about, the 2 one-time raises, return to work for staff, and the $1,000 increase, and then taking the 9,000 up to 10 this year. So, and that was a few years ago, close to 6,800 last year, 9,000 this year, 11,000. So state economy is definitely helping us.
Thank you for clarification. Any questions or comments? Once again, You know what to do. May I, I'd like approval for the 22-23 district expenditure budget, please.
Okay, I move that we approve the 2022-23 district expenditure budget as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 10C, I guess it's gonna be Julie tonight.
It's gonna be me tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Madam President and members of the board, good evening. We are asking on behalf of my athletic director and our athletes, and we are asking that we increase the pay to play to $20, which would make it to $85. This past year, one reason for this is this past year, referees were refusing to come out because we were further out than Prescott Valley, that's where they live. And so we were asked to increase their pay for one. So, and with the increase of uniforms and travel costs, it's time to increase that. I'm sitting back there trying to remember, how long has it been 65? I want to say at least 10 years. At least 10,
I wonder, yeah.
if not longer.
That's what my kids paid.
That's what you, yeah. I want to say it's been at least 10 years at 65.
Yeah.
And we're asking for approval to raise it to 85.
So the question that I will have is, for those children that cannot make the 85, they will still be able to play, is that
Yes.
correct?
We make sure.
Just wanted to make sure.
You do that on a case-by-case basis. I think.
Fantastic. All right, anything else from the board? Nope. All right. Seeking approval, a motion to approve the increase of $20 for HMS's pay to participate.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10D,
Here I go
proposed
again.
spending of the DES Child Care Stabilization Grant at Tech. I am so excited.
So you should have gotten the attachment in your board packet, and it has it broke down. It was actually really fun to spend money. A huge chunk of it is going to salaries. So we have 8 paraprofessionals that we can pay out of that to offset some of the other costs that we can have, as well as in addition of our preschool office secretary, which we already added that position before, knowing that we already had this grant, but now they increased it. Also retention bonuses for all of the paraprofessionals that are in preschool. Preschool, they deal with a lot of diaper changing, a lot of other stuff that other people don't want to deal with. So I can give them a retention bonus. Also quarterly bonuses, really looking at attendance, performance, and the trainings. So in preschool, because we're licensed with Quality First and the health department, they're required to do so many trainings. And so with this, if they participate in those, we can give them a bonus. Kind of like the classroom site fund. Parapros don't get the classroom site fund, so this is a way that I can reward that program. The money does have to stay within the preschool. It's a preschool grant, so. But I can give them quarterly bonuses, and then also we can do tuition waivers for our parents. I'm hoping to do at least 2 times a month, 2 times this year, which we can offset those. My first one will be December, that we can waive their tuition and pick it up by the grant. And that is something we can do with the grant as well. And then moving forward next year, paying for summer school. That is part of the grant. Part of the requirements are to stay operational all 12 months. So we ran summer school this year out of it, and we'll run summer school next year out of it. This year, our summer school wasn't as robust as we'd like it to be, but next year, it's getting the word out. People just didn't know, and they're like, oh my gosh, we already made plans, but
Is this just a yearly grant? Are we looking into the future?
right
or-
now it is just to 2023, to July of, or it'll end June of 2023.
And
We're
then one
hopeful.
more question.
Okay.
In a school district, are we allowed to offer bonuses, or does it need to be called something else? I'm just wondering.
Those are strict words that they used in the grant. It would be stipends, stipends or bonuses, retention bonuses. That was their wording, so I just used that. So I don't know if I need to change that. Okay, I have.
Fantastic, that's great.
I want to point out that the 9 positions here are existing positions, not new positions. So these are, the request is not for new positions, that's already been done.
That's been done.
And so these are existing positions that this would just cover.
The one we approved tonight, is it?
It's
in
included in
one?
this. So there's 7 existing, the 8 would be in this one.
Already been approved.
Fantastic. Any discussion for Mrs.
Brandy,
Cox?
real quick question on the tuition waivers. Are the conditions set forth in the grant or how do we determine that?
On the tuition waivers,
Yeah.
it is one of the stipulations that I can use the funding for, is to help offset the cost for parents.
Okay, but I said, so you have the process for determining who is eligible for the waiver.
Mhm.
On
And I would
case-by-case
just do any
basis.
of our tuition in parent, our tuition kids across the board, so
That's why I was wondering, so it would be more of across the board.
all,
rather
it would be all preschoolers in the month of December.
That's what I was hoping to get you to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
preschoolers in the month of December as well. I also have it in there for May, as long as with all the increases that we can balance it,
Mhm. Super.
balance it out, so.
Anything else? All right, who wants to make the last motion of the evening?
I move we approve the proposed spending for the DES Child Care Stabilization Grant at Territorial Early Childhood Center.
You're a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm new cattle prod.
I'm sitting here watching John talk to Karen.
All right.
I thought we were all done. I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Have a fantastic month.
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Three identical.
Sure.
And then on the other
Yes.
I have
side,
a comment.